man, this is really living.
All right, so who are you and what's your role in hunting?
My name is Drew Campbell, and my role. I don't understand the question.
Like, what, whenever I say conservation, what comes into your mind?
Now, compared to, say, 6 years ago, conservation to me is not going out and killing every deer you see. Now, we're blessed to hunt a piece of land that we can manage pretty strictly, so I don't have to worry about going out and killing deer every single time in fear of not being able to kill another deer. So when I think of conservation, I think of being able to conserve the deer that are on the land, let them grow, let them repopulate, spread the gene pool around, just really grow bigger, better, healthier deer. We hunt urban deer, so there's not as many resources, I guess you could say, but that's when we can step in and help them out as much as we can. Here in this part of Missouri, we're not allowed to feed, obviously. There's no minerals allowed, so what we've done is went and done food plots the most natural way possible, just to try and help, through the winter, help them with protein, help them with nutrients, stuff like that, just to try and make our deer herd bigger, better, healthier.
So for someone that's a non-hunter who is, say, almost against hunting, because when they see hunting, they see bloodshed and death and violence, and we're just going out to kill animals. What would you tell someone who was right here? If they was right here right now, what would you tell them? Someone who thinks hunting's just for killing.
That's an easy way to see it. Obviously, you are killing an animal, but it's not killing. I don't set out to kill the first thing I see or everything I see. You spend a lot of time waiting, a lot of time in preparation. You don't just go out and massacre everything. It's really not. I don't look at it as killing any deer. I look at it as harvesting a deer. When I go out and kill a deer, I'm very thankful for that animal. It's a blessing to be able to kill a deer, to harvest an animal. It's our God-given right to do so. But I don't look at it as a kill. We harvest the animal, we properly field dress it, we properly take care of it. We take the meat, we feed our family with it, preserve the hide. As you can see, we like to display stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely not going out and just killing animals. I mean, if you're going to go out and just kill something, you definitely aren't putting the time and the preparation that we put into doing this. So, I mean, it's a real thin line. It's a fragile boundary there. So, that's kind of whatever you feel. But as for us, we don't really go out and just kill deer. We harvest them.
Okay, so what would you say is your favorite part of the hunt? Is it the taking the shot? Is it the waiting? Is it the prepping the food plots? Is it watching the deer and day? I mean, what do you think what do you enjoy most out of deer hunting, or hunting anything for that matter, not just deer hunting?
That's a broad question. There's so many aspects to that, because I get a lot of enjoyment out of putting in food plots. Just started it last year, so I'm constantly reading up to try and make them better, more successful, more productive, and I haven't mastered that at all. But to get out there and make a food plot in hopes that you're going to draw the deer, and essentially help your herd, that's exciting. Probably one of my favorite parts about deer hunting is checking game cams. Just because the anticipation is like, man, it gets you. You're just sitting there waiting. Every day you're thinking, I wonder what's on the camera. Let's go check the camera. But you can't do that every day if you want to kill mature deer. I've really cut back this year on checking cameras just because I'm trying to keep the scent down. Doing a lot more scent control this year. But checking cameras is definitely one of my favorite parts. Just finding out what you have on your property. And when you're just scrolling through every single picture and that one buck pops up and you're like, your heart just is thumping. You're like, wow, that's the one I'm after. We've done this preparation and it's coming down to this. Another part is probably honestly just watching the deer. You're sitting there, you hear it coming, or even if you don't, you just happen to look up and that big buck has snuck in. It gets you shaking. Some deer not so much. The little ones are fun just to watch and come in. If you don't have any plan to shoot a deer that you see, or you're out hunting a certain deer, not every deer that comes in really gets your heart pumping, but man, them deer that come in that get your blood flowing, those are the ones that's exciting. And it's exciting just to watch the deer in their natural habitat without them knowing you're there. Just to watch them live how they live in the woods every day. So that's probably my most favorite part. Obviously, getting able to harvest a deer is probably the best part. Tracking a deer, that can't always be fun, but it's exciting. So obviously the work starts after you pull the trigger, but all around it's pretty exciting.
Okay. What are your anticipations of this season? Like, what's your goal? If you have a goal, what's your goal this season?
My goal this season is to harvest the 2 deer that I've been watching for a couple of years now. One since 2016, early 16. I just caught a glimpse of him on camera, and every year he gives me a couple pictures, all in the same setting. This year he showed up twice, both during daylight hours, so really excited about that deer. And I know he is a local. I've watched him grow. I've watched him go from a big 8 crab claw last year to now he's got a kicker coming off of his G1. And there's another deer that I believe has been hit by a vehicle, and he's been limping around. Last year he limped around. I wasn't sure if he would make it. This year I seen him again, didn't even recognize him, and he got so much height to him from last year to this year. Then he had a big spot on his face, and talking with my taxidermist said he thought it might be from fighting. Now that spot has gone away, so anyway, those 2 deer are really, I have high anticipation, high hopes, and that is my goal for this season. That's why I'm really trying to crack down on scent control, on checking game cams, stuff like that. So I'm really going in hard this year. I mean, we can go out and kill small bucks, does, every day in the spot, that we're blessed to hunt with, but really going to try and get serious this year and put some nice ones on the ground.
What would you call a successful hunt? And that's including some hunts you might not harvest the deer. Would you still call that a successful hunt?
I believe so. I mean, anytime you can get out in the woods, if you can get to your tree stand or climb a tree without being noticed, without being seen, heard, you can sit in that tree for hours not be winded, not be hurt, anything like that, and get back to your vehicle or whatever, I would say that's successful. If you're able to watch deer, if deer come in and you can watch them graze and feed, whatever, and not be seen, I would say that's successful. Just to be able to get out and hunt. If you see deer, if you don't see deer, I mean, there's really no successful hunt. Obviously, if you harvest an animal, you may consider yourself more successful, but I don't know, it's just to get out and enjoy God's creation, I think, is successful in itself.
If I was a new hunter, I wanted to get into deer hunting, what would be, if there was, you could give me one tip, what one tip or one piece of advice or just one thing to lift my spirit, what would you tell that new hunter? Just one thing. If you could tell him one thing, what would you tell him?
Well, that's a tough question. I guess I would say something that I've always maybe was taught is always be alert. Always be aware of your surroundings, because you have to be like the deer. Deer watch for motion. They catch their motion detectors. That's all they watch. So if you're walking through the woods to your stand, or you're sitting in your stand or whatever, you don't look for the deer. You look for any movement that may happen. A flick of a tail, a twitch of an ear, anything. You always have to be alert and aware.
Okay, in closing, is there anything you'd like to just tell everybody, or?
We sell camouflage to each other, not deer. Obviously, camouflage helps, but if you take a picture of something, a good example I seen was a bright orange safety vest. A man was in a tree with it on. They took a picture of him, turned it to black and white. All you see is a big black blob in a tree. Obviously, deer see black and white. If you take that same orange vest and paint some lines on it, some black lines, just to break up the big spot, it's a world of difference. You can't see the guy anymore. So as far as clothing, obviously, you don't have to wear camo. Camo does help. Again, I'm going to go back to scent control. You will never get rid of your scent, ever. But if you reduce your scent to a tenth of what it normally is, that deer will think that you're 10 times farther than what you actually are. And it will make it feel safer and more apt to come to where you are.
Well, I guess that's all the questions I have. So I guess we're just looking forward to the season. And is there any last shout outs you want to give, or?
Shout out to Ken Horton for most of everything you see in the background. Everything but the bear. Shout out to everybody that watches our channel. I know it's just getting off the ground, and we kind of started it right before season, so we've been just trying to bring you material and stuff and footage just to get up to speed to this point. Shout out to my wife for supporting this habit that takes me from the house most of the year. Yeah, exactly. And shout out to the guy asking the questions. So I guess I would have never really thought of a YouTube channel, so that's about it, I guess. Alright, so tell us a little bit about yourself and what your expectations for this season, or what you're looking forward to this season.
Well, as you most already know, I'm Joe. And a little bit about myself. I haven't been hunting as long as most that have been hunting, because a lot of people hunting is passed down to a dad or a grandfather or whatever. I kind of just picked it up on my own. Moved down here from the city, kind of saw people doing it. I was like, oh, I want to try that. So I picked up hunting, got into it. I was around 18 really when it really started to get where I'd start to hunt. I don't think I killed my first deer until I was 19. So, I mean, there was a dry spell there of not seeing nothing. Prior to that, I went out in the woods and said I was hunting, but, just being as a kid, shooting birds with a BB gun. But my anticipations now, the last 3 years ago, you'd asked me that question, my anticipations would have been buck. I want to kill a big buck. That was always my anticipations. Now, as times have changed and I have a family of my own, I have my own children, so my anticipations for hunting now are just being in the woods, being around God's creation. I look at the woods and everything as a whole new, it's all a new picture to me. It's not, I'm in the woods to kill. I'm in the woods to release my mind. Everything around me is all in flow. Nothing's out of sync. It all just, it just, I don't know, it just feels right to me. I feel like I'm at home in the woods. And more so than that, go even a step further, is who I'm with. I don't like hunting alone. I love hunting with my buddy Drew or my son Caden. Seeing their reactions on things is almost more enjoyable than me actually, say I shoot a duck or a deer or a turkey. One of my favorite things in the world to do is go hunting with Drew Campbell. When he shoots a turkey, it's just, I don't know, there's just something about it. It's just awesome. But yeah, so my anticipations this year are kind of the same, just to be there, to be in that moment of nothing. The anticipation of being there. That's my anticipations for this year.
So I see that your equipment is a little different than it was last year. I know last year you had a couple different compounds. This year, the road forked and you just hung a hard right. Tell us a little bit about that. Maybe what went into the decision making.
Kind of to go back to what I was just talking about. Nothing against gun hunters, so no one get butt sore. But when you go into the woods with a rifle, I'm not gonna. Don't take this the wrong way. I personally almost don't see that as hunting. I see that as killing, because you're going in the woods with a rifle that can shoot 300 plus yards at an animal. At that far, it didn't matter if I was wearing perfume; he wouldn't know I was there. I mean, it's fine if you do that, and it's great if you have a passion for that and whatever. It was getting to the point with me where I had harvested enough animals that it just wasn't a challenge. I almost felt that way last year with a compound bow. Now, mind you, compound bow that's hard. That you're in their living room. When you're trying to kill a deer, you're in their living room to kill him with a compound bow. Well, my mindset was, I want to try killing him in the bathroom. Let's get real close. Let's get personal. I'm going to squeeze into the tub with him. So I went old school, stick and string. And the other thing is, like, whenever I look at this bow, I see like heritage. I feel sucked into the bow hunters. Because when I think of bow hunters, I don't think of Team Realtree or Team Mossy Oak or, all these new guys, Juries, Outdoors. They're all great hunters. But when I think of hunting, I think of Fred Bear, guys like that, the ones who started it. And the best way I can think of to come to their level and be, almost intertwined with them in this spirituality that you can only get in the woods is to do it like they did it. And I don't know because I haven't killed anything with it yet, but even when I draw my bow back and I release that arrow and it hits that mark on the target that I'm aiming for, I get a pump of adrenaline. And I feel that same adrenaline when a deer walks into the woods. So I figured downsizing like this would just make that flare up even more. That was my main reasons.
And to try and show off. Anyway, moving on. So, you asked about conservation. What about deer management, herd management? just the whole process of that.
Like, what does it mean to me?
What does it mean to you? Say go back 6 years ago to now.
6 years ago, my answer is similar to yours. It was public land. I hadn't killed a lot at the time. I got to kill a deer. My mind, that's all it was. Kill, 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 kill. If I could have chose then bow or gun all the way, because I can walk through the woods, see something, jump it up, and shoot it, and that's all I wanted, just to kill a deer. Now, more mature into my hunting, it's like what you just said. It's managing, and not so much as just managing the deer to hunt, to manage the deer to preserve them. A lot of people don't look at conservation and hunting as that part of it, but if you look financially, the most funds given to wildlife refugees and building the forests, that doesn't come from PETA. It comes from hunters. And why is that? It's because we have a heart for it. We have a desire to it. It burns us. We love it. We literally love the outdoors. So we will do anything it takes to preserve the outdoors. And if that means I got to let a doe go by, so next year there'll be 3 deer instead of 1, I'll do it. That's fine. And if Missouri Conservation came out with an ad tomorrow and said, no deer hunting this year, numbers are too low, we can't deer hunt this year, would it upset me? Like sadden me? Yes. Would I be angry? No. If they see that's what needs to be done, that's what needs to be done. And we have to realize that as hunters, that us going to kill or harvest deer isn't just to feed us, it's to preserve what God has given us. God had given us this earth to take care of, and then we trampled all over it, and now we're trying to backstep and fix what we messed up. So when I think of conservation, that's what I think of, us trying to fix it. We need to bring it back to what it was in the old days.
What is your, I guess, anticipations? What are you looking forward to this season? Is there any deer on the hit list? What do you plan on? Do you plan on using a compound this year at all, or are you going strictly traditional?
I'm fighting that one. I want to say I'm only going to use traditional. I'm going to try to, with all my might, only pick up that bow, so that way I'm forced to use only traditional. As far as the hit list goes, I have 1 deer we've been watching for 2 years now. We've called Kardashian because it loves the camera. And for some reason, me and this deer cannot meet up. Drew's met up with his deer plenty of times, could have stuck 1,000,000 arrows into it, and has been nice enough to save it for me because I don't know why, but I have a love for this deer. It's got a tall rack. It's a little odd shaped. I like it. I want it on the wall. I want it in my freezer. I want to see my kids eating it. So that's kind of my anticipations this year, is really to meet up with Kardashian and just to kill any deer with that bow. I don't know. It's gonna feel like a huge success for me. It's I'll feel like I've broken into a new tier of hunting, and I'm excited to break into that, and I'm excited that hopefully that changes minds of other people around me to break into that. I don't know. I just feel like it's a whole new tier, and I can't wait to get into it.
I guess that's about all I have. I know you're anticipating it as much as I am, so we are in the final countdown week until the day comes, and here in Missouri it's going to be about 100 degrees. So
yeah, I do have one thing to add. If I could, there's one thing I could tell a new hunter or anyone to get in the outdoors. The one tip I can give them is never give up. Because I promise you, if you deer hunt or turkey hunt, squirrel hunt, anything, you're going to have a lot of days where you don't see none. You'll have more days where you see none than days you see some. So don't get discouraged when you go out and you see deer, or you don't see deer or whatever. You need to start getting discouraged when you go out and you see a deer and it blows on you because it smelled you, or it flips the tail because it's seen you. That's when you need to be like, okay, now I got to fix something. But if you go out and don't see nothing, that's just the way it is. It's called hunting, not killing. You'll have a lot of that. And to close it off, that's kind of what I'm agreeing with too, is I'm excited. We're 1 week away from season starting. Like Drew also said, thanks to our sponsor, Ken Taxidermy. If you're in the Missouri area and you have any kind of taxidermy work that you need done, I highly recommend Ken. He's affordable, he works with you, he's there for the working man, and he does phenomenal work. I mean, for what he does, it blows my mind, because this dude works a full-time job and has a family and still finds time to do these for us, and he always takes good care of us. Thanks for all the people that watch our videos. I greatly appreciate that. I know we're just getting off the ground, like Drew said. Be ready. Buckle in. And trust me, it's going to get good. As soon as this season kicks in, you're going to see why we started this channel. I promise you there's going to be some footage that you won't see nowhere else. And know that whenever me and Drew go out and hunt, we're not paid. When I say sponsored by, I mean Ken just cuts us a little deal. We don't get no money from no one. We work full-time jobs. We full-time in ministry. We love the Lord. We love our families. That's priorities. Hunting's is something we get to do on the side. It's a passion of ours. We love it. Fishing, hunting, all that stuff is just great. And so be ready for those. It's going to be good. And stick tight. Thank you.
We're committed to